No, the situation is incredibly alarming because we haven't seen yet the extent of the full crisis unfold. So that is what we're at today, is about 1.1 million people who are internally displaced, and over 300,000 South Sudanese have had to flee to Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Sudan to find refuge. And what's heartbreaking about that is that these are the same populations that came home 2 years ago to celebrate the independence of the new country. So soon to find yourself once again a refugee, it's fraught with multiple heartbreaks. For the IDPs, internally displaced people inside the country, we're very worried about all of them, but there's some subpopulations that we're particularly concerned about. There's nearly 100,000 displaced people who are living at the UN bases, the peacekeeping bases around the country right now, including 18,000 around the FAO office. So this is not something that is a remote statistic. It's right outside our front doorstep. The other population that we're quite concerned about are the nearly 450,000 that are living in the flood zones. And right now it's raining, the floods are coming in, people are up to their knees in mud in the camps, and pretty soon, where are they going to go? They're going to have to get displaced again. So it's not only having to run from your home twice, it's then also having to run from the camp. So even as we, as a humanitarian community, are scrambling to help them to survive, we will then have to help them survive in new places all over again. It's having a phenomenally negative effect on every dimension of food security. The availability of food, the utilization of food, the accessibility of food, the stability of the food supply. And it's been a multi-pronged attack on food security. On the first aspect, for availability, the conflict itself directly destroyed food stocks. It started in December, which is at a time of maximum storage of food in the conflict-affected areas. And there was widespread looting, but also widespread destruction of what was left behind, which is insult to injury. It's a terrible thing to have to lose your hard-earned stocks. But the other thing that's happened is that the markets in the main cities in the conflict-affected areas, places like, you might have heard, Malakal, Bor, and Bentiu, they've been utterly destroyed. These are cities that survived 30 years of civil war and didn't survive 3 months of this conflict. These are the main points for where all of the commercial food comes in to the populations of the conflict-affected states. With instability continuing along the rivers, the Nile, which is the lifeline to Sudan, and the Sobat, which is the lifeline to Ethiopia, food stocks are not coming in. The other aspects we have, of course, are utilization. Inside the camps, you need to cook the food that WFP provides, for example, and you need firewood for that. But these camps have sprung up in the middle of nowhere, and women are taking horrendous, unacceptable risks of going out and getting firewood, and way too many of them are getting raped in the process. So there is just no end of challenge to all of the dimensions of food security right now for the internally displaced. And for the refugees, life is a little bit better. They're a bit more protected, but still incredibly challenging. Right now we're on track to be assisting 1.3 million people with the $42 million in emergency assistance that the donors have provided. And that is providing the inputs required for fishermen to fish, farmers to plant, and pastoralists to keep their herds alive, which in turn puts on the dinner table milk, vegetables, meat, and fish. And that's keeping a lot of people alive right now. So that's been very, very important work. But we had a large development portfolio going into the crisis, about a $45 million portfolio, the European Union, the Canadians, very, very robust funded projects to try and transform agriculture in South Sudan. Ironically, because we are working harder than we ever have before, we're also working harder on development than we've ever worked before. So although we're only 6 months into the year, we've already done twice the development work that we did last year. So it's not a matter of the emergency taking away our focus. It is because all of FAO has come to help FAO South Sudan. And as a process, we're doing more work than ever for development, for resilience, and for saving lives in the humanitarian action. The rainy season will now continue into September for the most part, and at that time it brings a lot of flood, but it also brings a lot of fish, it brings wild foods, and the South Sudanese are exceptional at trying to survive from the land. They had to do this during the war, and unfortunately they're having to do it in the current conflict. However, when the seasons turn, that means that the waters dry up, the wild food goes away, the fish are restricted to just the main river waterways. And so it will become much harder for people to survive off the land. In addition, there has been, notwithstanding everyone's efforts, a tremendous impact on the planting season. And combined with the impact on the markets, we are not looking at much food being available at the time of harvest. So we are looking at a very, very severe challenge for the months ahead.